Now, I want to show you what I did with this intake here. I got a bushing from Lowe's. I milled it down until it fit inside of the carburetor. Drilled 2 holes in it back here for the set screws that I used. Tapped it, which holds it onto the intake. Silicone high temperature Permatex is the best, and I slid this, I put Permatex around the intake before I put this collar on, and then slid the collar on, tightened it up, and wiped all the excess Permatex off of it, because you don't want anything loose. And when you're done, you'll be able to see that the seal seats behind the car, right on the bushing, and the inside of the intake is also touching the inside of the seal, which is a pretty shitty seal if you ask me. Chinese could have came up with something a little better than this. And to fix the problem around the carburetor, make sure everything is clean with some good cleaner that doesn't leave any residue. You clean the carburetor and put Permatex around the slot on the back of the carburetor. You can see it. And make sure you leave nothing on the inside of the carburetor sticking out, which you want to make sure you get some of it up in the slot at the top of the carburetor, so that this piece of shit seal might seal up for you if you get it good and clean. Now, the reason why I did this is because, as you can see, the way this seal sits in here, when it sits in here, the back corner of this carburetor right here has nothing to hold the seal, which is going to cause a leak if you don't put Permatex at the top of the carburetor. And when you're done, you can test this with some carburetor cleaner, or, well, preferably not carburetor cleaner, because it will remove the oil from your cylinder going into the engine. It's not good for it, because it will make your cylinder run dry and cause scratches. But some good starting fluid, preferably with lubrication in it, upper cylinder lubrication, it won't hurt it. It's made for 2 strokes, and you can buy it just about anywhere. You can even get it in Walmart, believe it or not. To test the leaks on this carburetor after you're done. The reason why I went with this and not the billet intake is because I have hooked up dual boost bottles on this intake. Because the intake that came with the boost bottles was a little bit smaller in diameter, and I wanted a steel intake to make the boost bottles work right. I didn't want to destroy the intake that I bought with the boost bottles, so I bought this intake separate from the manufacturer, or, well, the person that sells the engines anyway. He don't manufacture them because they come straight from China. But I also port matched the inside of the intake, and when I screwed these in here, I used a Dremel tool with a stainless steel cutting bit and made sure they were perfectly smooth on the inside of the intake. When I tap these, I tap them just a little bit small, so when you screw these in, they will screw in tight and they will not vibrate back out. And that was the reason why I cut them off on the inside, because I screwed them in there as far as I could to make them tight. And this will fix your leaky piece of shit carburetor, and this bitch will kick some butt. Well, excuse my French, this thing will kick some butt. I went from about 25 miles per hour with a stock carburetor to 47 miles per hour with this carburetor on here. There's nothing wrong with the carburetor itself, it's just a seal problem is the only thing wrong with it. Now, I was with the expansion chamber muffler on here, I was getting about 36 miles per hour. As soon as I put this carburetor on here and I fixed this, it went from about 35 to 47. Now this is one of the best modifications of all, and this is, you can get at Sick Bike Parts. I ran mine on this side because I didn't really want it underneath of the crank because it would look retarded. It looks really sweet like this. And all I did was make a bracket that came off of the seat post. You take this bolt out, anybody building an OCC, this is a sweet pipe and it will kick some butt. Bend it and perfectly fit this. Now, right here, I went and bought 2 more collars just like the one that came with the kit to make this pipe work. What I did is I cut the piece of copper that goes inside of here till this pipe and the copper fitting almost touch, but not quite. You put your rubber on there and you're good to go. Now, another thing I did to get this pipe on here, when I soldered these fittings together after I fitted the pipe and made sure it cleared the crank. And she's close, as you can see, but she clears very nice. And this is one of the best pipes I've seen on any website that I have looked at so far. So this is the one I went with, and I read the reviews before I bought it, and everybody gave good reviews except for some people that had carburetor problems and didn't know what they were doing. But a 2-stroke without an expansion chamber is not a 2-stroke because they won't go anywhere. I also put an upgraded plug in here. It has a longer stem. The stock plug didn't go all the way to the bottom of the threads, which creates another problem. You won't get the fire that you want. If you change the plug to an upgraded plug with a longer shank, it's going to run a whole lot better. I'm used to building dirt bikes. This little thing was kind of a challenge for me, but it's a sweet little machine, as you can tell. And another thing I did was these handlebars, because I didn't like those little short handlebars. It did not control very well with them. a nice set of handlebars that sit up higher so you can lean back, and you've got total control over this bike. That's all I've got right now.